Hello, everyone, and welcome to Losses Above Replacement, the best baseball podcast to grace your ears. I am today's host, Alex Clark, joined by our very own playoff hopefuls in Mathias Kurosaki and Ryan Splash Potts, my main men. How are we doing here on this September afternoon?
Alex, you were triggering my PTSD. The Braves are 2 games out of a playoff spot with 6 to play, and it is not fun.
I'm sorry to hear that. I gotta tell you, I triggered my own PTSD on that. So we're struggling together, Splash. That's how we are.
Yeah, let's just say I'm sort of feeling that with this upcoming series against the Braves. But the weekend was awesome. Took 3 of 4 from the Phillies. Of course, I was at the one game they lost. I'd like to point out though, I think it may have been my dad's fault. He has a losing record this year, and the Mets had won I believe 3 of the last 4 games I had been to, or something like that. So I'd like to think it wasn't my fault, but it was a pretty good sports weekend, other than Syracuse losing on Friday night. So I'm doing all right, and yeah, this it's gonna be an interesting week of baseball. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, no, this week is going to be insane. Here, think about how close a lot of these races still are as we're getting into the final week of the season. Seattle only has 6 games left here. 3 of them are in Houston, 3 are in Seattle, but those games in Seattle are against Oakland, and it may be too late by then. We'll see. I'm actually going to be going to the last 2 games, potentially, hopefully the third. I'm trying to work on that one right now, but we'll see. Anyway, playoffs, we're talking about it a bit more. Obviously, we're near the playoffs, but we've been on a stretch here of talking about why every team will either win the World Series or lose the World Series, and we're off to what I think is the final episode of it here before the actual playoffs actually start here, and that is going to be why every team in the American League will not win the World Series, and we need to make a quick addendum here. For the last bit here with the American League, we did not talk about the Detroit Tigers. This apparently angered the Detroit Tigers, and they have gone on a massive winning streak here and now currently hold one of the wild card spots here. So we'll be doing the same teams as we did last time, but we'll also be adding in these Motor City Kitties. So if you guys are ready, let's start here just with the AL East. Here, going from the top here, let's start off just with the New York Yankees. Mac, I'll start with you. Why will the New York Yankees not win the World Series?
Because baseball is a team sport.
Mac, there you go. Yeah, you cut out there for the beginning of that.
Oh, whoops. What's it called? Baseball is a team sport, unfortunately. And unfortunately, you can't rely on just Aaron Judge and Juan Soto to carry your entire team. I'm not saying Giancarlo Stanton's a bad player or Austin Wells is a bad player, but this lineup leaves a lot to be desired. So yeah, that's why the Yankees aren't winning the World Series. Other than that, I think they're a solid all-around team, but I really, they're the 1 seed in the AL right now, but I wouldn't necessarily say they're the best all-around team in the AL.
All right, fellas. Yeah. The New York Yankees will not win the World Series because the Houston Astros exist. And simply put, when the New York Yankees see the Houston Astros across the field on the playoffs, they poop their pants, frankly. They allow walk-off home runs to end series. They lose game 7s. They score one run at Minute Maid Park in 4 games in 2017. They get swept in 2022. They lose a wild card game in 2015. The team is buns. And we talk a lot, fairly enough, about the Yankees' relationship with the Twins, which resembles something you'd call Child Protective Services for. The Astros do the same freaking thing to the Yankees. So the Yankees, when you face the Astros in the inevitable ALCS, you're going to get whacked. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, I mean, to add on there, I just don't think the Yankees have, at least on the pitching side, they have a lot of good starters, but like Garrett Cole has been better lately, but he's not quite Garrett Cole, if you understand what I mean. So I'm having a hard time trusting that full pitching staff. And then that bullpen, Luke Weaver has been much better lately as the closer. I think they should stick with him as the closer, and I don't know if I trust Clay Holmes over a playoff series either. So it's a lot of trust issues with the pitching staff and a lot of inconsistency outside the two big bats in the lineup. Although I will say Jazz Chisholm has provided a nice boost to the lineup.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I'm going to piggyback a bit off of what Mac was saying here. Definitely not what Splash was saying. But the New York Yankees will not win the World Series because Aaron Judge does not play all 9 defensive positions. Like, don't get me wrong. They have some good hitters. Again, you have Aaron Judge. You have Juan Soto. You have those two that are absolutely incredible. Your pitching staff, I'm going to give them a little bit more credit, right? I think that their pitching staff is pretty all right. Overall, taking a look at what they have 6 starting pitchers right now with an ERA plus of over 100, which I know 100 is average. But Clark Schmidt has an ERA plus of 173. Here, Nasty Nestor's at 108. Luis Gil is still at 125. And your relievers have been getting better and better and better. Oh, by the way, it looks like we're getting a Passan bomb right now. The Tigers just called up here Jackson Jobe. Huh.
That's a huge. Yeah, wow.
Wasn't expecting that. Huge Passan bomb here on air. Wow. Anyway, finishing my point here. Like, the problem is, I'm not going to say again, like, oh, you can just take away these guys and they're not good. Like, obviously, that's not how it works. But looking at it realistically with their offensive staff here, Aaron Judge, Juan Soto are the two that really carry it. The only other two of your main starting 9 that have an OPS plus of over 100 that have an OPS plus of over 100 are Stanton, Wells, and then a third I'm going to say right now of Jazz Chisholm. So after that, you have issues here. And so I'm not going to say that's going to truly hamper them, but if it's any reason why they're going to lose the World Series, it is going to be because they're of a lack of offense. Here, you have amazing pieces, yes. I think you need a little bit more in order to make it truly. You may need a little more to make it work. So now let's move on here to the next. Let's keep it in the AL East here. The Baltimore Orioles here. And Splash, I'll let you start on this one here. Why would the Orioles win the World Series?
The Baltimore Orioles will not win the World Series because they do not have a good enough superstar player. This is sort of the inverse problem that the Yankees have. So if you compare the Yankees lineup and the Orioles lineup, you get I don't want to say generally the same production because that kind of undersells the Yankees a smidge, but depending on what day it is, they'll be right next to each other in like OPS plus and season stuff, right? So the Yankees get there very differently because they have Judge and Soto and then some average players. The Orioles, on the other hand, have a slew of above average players. But if we've learned anything from sports the last couple years, you need your stars to play like stars. And I don't exactly trust Gunnar Henderson quite yet at that star level. And Adley Rutschman, who we all come into the season, he's a top catcher. He's this, that, the other. Although he was number 1 for just one of us, but number 2 for the other 2. He's just been pretty horrendous for about 4 months now. And other players from the team, like Anthony Santander, yes, he has 43 homers. Yes, that's wonderful. And yes, Jordan Westbrook is good at baseball. And yes, these guys are good at baseball. And the pitching staff, you have Corbin Burns, which is phenomenal. You have good players on the team. But like the other team in the city, your stars need to play like stars. And I don't exactly think this is a loaded stars team. Very loaded in terms of sort of like the Braves in that you have the one superstar player. I would trust Acuna more than Henderson, but whatever. But you run into the issue of you have a bunch of B players while other teams you will be facing have an A or an A plus in an Aaron Judge or a Juan Soto or Yordan Alvarez. Gunnar Henderson, I don't know if he's that A plus just yet. He's great. he's going to finish top 5 in MVP voting, but I don't know if he's exactly on that same tier as the Jordans and the Sotos and the Judges and other players of that caliber.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Orioles won't win the World Series because they just can't seem to gel at the right time. Early in the season, it felt like everything was going their way. They were 45-22 on June 12th, and since then they are 41-48. That's basically 3 months of being below average, and it just feels like every time it seems like one part of their team is about to break out. Say their offense is about to get going. Their starting pitching will have a clunker, or oh look, Corbin Burns and Zach Eflin, they put up consecutive great starts. The offense scores a combined 1 run or something like that, or oh they both did well. Well, the bullpen comes in and blows the lead. It just seems like nothing, like they can't seem to be firing on all cylinders at all, which is very unlike what we expected from them this year. So that's my biggest issue is that it's like that meme where you click one thing and the other you click starting pitching and the other thing just turns off, or the other two turn off. Like it's impossible to get all 3 of them working at the same time. So that's why the Orioles won't win the World Series. I mean, they look like World Series hopefuls back in mid-June. They've looked like, they've looked pretty subpar over the last 3 months. So that's, I'm not saying they can't turn it around. They can't figure it all out in the next week or so, but they're about to lose out on the division. The Yankees are 6 games up, and they start a series this week. So, yeah, the Orioles need to figure it out, or they're going to be another early exit.
Yeah. For me, when it comes to the Orioles, they will not win the World Series because their pitching just can't hold them up at this point. Like, I think that their offense can be good. Like, I'm not going to say I have full faith that guys like Rushman and Gunnar Henderson will be able to continue what they've been doing. But I like their odds a little bit more than I like the odds for the starting pitching staff for the Orioles. Right now, you got Burns. End of list. That's about what you got when it comes to starting pitching.
Zach Eflin has been really good since the
Zach Eflin has been good. I'm going to give him that.
The team doesn't like scoring for him. That's the issue.
I mean, to be fair, that's just Felix Hernandez syndrome. So, I mean, it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But, here's the thing right now is that you need more than just 1 or 2 starters in something like this. Thank you, Splash. You need more than 1 or 2 starters for the playoffs. Legitimately, you need at least, in my opinion, 3 to 4. You can get by without a 4th and all that, but if you're relying really on just 2 guys, you're going to be good in a 3-game series, in a best of 3. When you move on to the actual series, it starts to get a little bit worrisome there. So, I mean, the offense can do good work. It's just about whether or not they're going to be able to overcome what their pitching just does not have, especially still hurting the fact that they don't have as much of a strong bullpen as they would like to be having at this time of the year. Let's move on now to the AL Central, where we're going to be talking about a few different teams, and I will be going first this one. We'll be talking about the Cleveland Guardians here, and why will the Cleveland Guardians not be winning the World Series? I have a fun answer and I have a real answer. The fun answer is that Kyle Manzardo is not the everyday starter. Kyle Manzardo is a legendary human being, and I love him very much. Go Cougs. No, but honestly, for me, the real bit with it is that I just don't have faith in them. That's really what it comes down to. It's their starting pitching worries me overall, kind of like it did with the Orioles here. And then the offense can score runs pretty well, but it just feels like the team is not as cohesive. Here, I'm looking at what they've been doing here over the course of the season, right? And your best hitter right now, again, surprise or nobody, is J-Ram. And then after that, it's Kwan, who's been hurt. After that, you have David Fry, who has still come out of absolutely nowhere, and I'm going to be fully okay with saying that. I just don't have faith in them. I want to because I like the team comp, but I just have these kinds of issues. And when you don't have the pitching that, if you're able to get into the 7th inning with a lead, I think they're fine. right? If you can get into 7th inning with a lead, you are going to be just fine. You're going to win ball games because Emmanuel Clase is still potentially the best reliever in baseball. But after that, there's question marks. So, Mac, let's get to you next on this one.
Yeah, the Guardians will not win the World Series because their starting rotation just I don't know who even starts game 2. So yeah, the Guardians starting rotation. It's honestly every time I look at it, it's a miracle they've made it this far and they've won as many games as they have. Because you look, okay, so I'll just take a guess. Tanner Bybee will start game 1. You know, he's made 30 starts. He's a 3.56 ERA in 166 innings. Tanner Bybee has been their best pitcher this year. Who starts game 2? Are you going to go Ben Lively in game 2 or Matt Boyd? These are not
like that. That's all I could come up with. Yeah, it's Lively.
Those are not playoff caliber arms. Gavin Williams has not been good this year. Tristan McKenzie got sent to the minors. Carlos Carrasco got designated for assignment. Logan Allen got sent to the minors. It's just it. I don't. Joey Cantillo, is he going to be in the playoff rotation? These are not guys who normally crack playoff rotations. That being said, if you can get through 15 outs, that's all I'm asking. 5 innings. The bullpen is electric. Everyone, you know, Tim Herron, Hunter Gaddis, Cade Smith, and then getting the ball to Emmanuel Clase for the last 3 to 6 outs. I trust their bullpen a lot. But, man, I have so many concerns about that starting rotation. And they could maybe win a best-of-3 series. Maybe, if you're lucky, you get a best-of-5 series. I do not see them winning in a best-of-7 series at all.
So, folks,
Mac, I have a quick question for you before we go forward here. Hold on, just like real quick, Splash. I have a question I would like to ask.
Yeah.
I was looking at their pitching roster here. Would you trust Matthew Boyd to start a game?
Sure.
Hello?
I mean, I would trust Matt Boyd. I don't think he could get you more than 5 innings. That's the issue. And honestly, I don't even. Well, actually, you know, he's made 8 starts. He's not even averaging 5 innings a start. That's the thing. So, yeah, not. I don't trust him to work deep into games. Let's put it that way. Maybe he'll get you 4 or 5 innings, but it's not like he doesn't have a ton of postseason experience either. And that's a general issue with the rotation is they're not really battle tested. So, yeah, they're as a game 3 or game 4 starter, maybe, but yeah, not a. It's hard to trust them.
Yeah, I can completely understand that. All right, Splash, on to you for this when it comes to
The Cleveland Guardians will not win the World Series because we are playing baseball, not football. If you played 1 game a week and it was a winner-take-all game, like the NFL playoffs, Cleveland could get really aggressive, like hyper-aggressive with their bullpen, and it wouldn't matter that Tanner Bybee might not be able to get 18 outs in a playoff game. Because, frankly, you just throw him like the Braves did Ian Anderson, and you try to get 10 outs. If you get 10 outs, great. And then you just spam your wonderful bullpen. It's a phenomenal bullpen. You have 4 guys, high-usage guys with the sub-2 ERA. It is September 23rd. These are, like, yes, relatively small sample sizes because they're still relievers, but it's like 60 innings of 2-run ball at worst for these guys. So if you can manage hyper aggressively, like game 7 managing the entire playoffs, okay, fair enough. You win. I will concede if you can pull out game 7 level managing every game of the playoffs. But I don't think Cleveland can do that. I don't think Cleveland will do that. And as soon as they lose a Bybee start, or if they get a good start from Boyd and they don't win, that goes down the drain real fast. And that's the thing, as you mentioned with the Orioles, with the toggling on and off, if you don't get run support and you get a good start, we have problems. If you get a bunch of run support, then, you know, you can let the cards lie where they may. You have Jose Ramirez, you have Josh Naylor, right? You have Big Christmas, right? You can score some runs, but if you lay an egg and it's like a 1-0 loss and you're having to burn your bullpen arms, your A bullpen arms just to keep you in the game, that's when we have problems. That's when the Guardians could go off the rails. They could win game 1. They might win game 2. But as soon as they try to put away game 3 and you have to burn your high leverage bullpen arms, I'm not even saying they allow runs, but you're down 1-0 or 2-1 or 3-2 in the later innings. You don't want to punt the game. You don't want to bring in Austin Hedges, who did pitch this season, by the way. You don't want to bring in your B bullpen. You want to bring in your A bullpen. It's the playoffs. You want to win the game. But as soon as you do that and you're burning, Class A throws 20 extra pitches, or Gaddis throws 20 extra pitches, and then are they as effective the next day? Are they effective the next day? So it's just a sports issue. Also, shout out to the Cleveland Browns for robbing me of the survivor pool.
Fair enough. All right, let's move on here then to the next team here, and that is going to be the Kansas City Royals here of the American League Central. Here, and let's start this one off with Splash here. Tell me, why won't the Royals win the World Series?
So first of all, I'm not even sure the Royals are going to make the playoffs. They have a series against Atlanta to end. That is going to be potentially exciting. They play the Nationals next, so they play like the Nationals, so that helps. But the Braves, so there's a non-zero chance they miss the playoffs. Just throwing that out there. But let's assume they do. They have a reasonable shot too. They have, according to Baseball Reference, 68.4%. The Kansas City Royals will not win the World Series because they don't get to play every game at Kauffman Stadium. This is a pretty bad hitting team outside of the friendly confines. And you're missing one of your best hitters in Vinny Pasquantino, a guy who's been inordinately clutch. And we can have a conversation if clutch exists or clutch doesn't exist, or if it's reliable. Who cares? He's not in the lineup. I don't think he can return. Maybe it's an Austin Riley situation that he can, like, if you go deep enough in the playoffs, he can return. But you have two even solid hitters. You have Salvador Perez, who has his own flaws, and then you have Bobby Witt, who's having perhaps the best shortstop season any of us have ever seen. The issue is there's no depth. This is the Yankees combined with the Orioles problem. The Yankees in that they have a bunch of mid, and the Orioles that they only have the one like star playing like a star. Witt, I would take over Henderson right this very second because we know that would switch immediately.
Agreed.
But I don't know where you're getting runs. If you pitch around Witt, which I don't even know if you want to do outside of Kauffman Stadium, but let's say you're at Kauffman Stadium and you want to pitch around Bobby Witt. Who is driving him in? Pasquantino is injured. Salvador Perez swings at everything. There's fundamental issues here, and this isn't even mentioning the pitching staff, which has been phenomenal, and you have Lugo and Reagans and Singer and Waka, who have all been terrific. The bullpen, I mean, you have Lucas Erceg, who has cooled off from his roasting hot start, but I don't know. This feels like a wild card exit sort of team to me.
Yeah, this is, for me, the team that's either going to not make it or make it into the wild card and then immediately exits, or wins it all. Just because, like, somehow it'll happen, right? Like, just somehow it'll happen. But no, I'm going to borrow a little bit from myself on this one. Royals are not winning the World Series because Bobby Witt Jr. doesn't play every position on the field again. And it's, again, like, bringing up what you said here about, do you walk Bobby Witt Jr.? The answer is absolutely yes, you do. Like, it's kind of like with the Yankees where, okay, so the Mariners just played the Yankees in a series, right? And Judge was only intentionally walked, I believe, one time. And that one time was because there was, I believe they needed it, they had like runners on or something like that. Otherwise, they just pitched to him because you know that the guy right behind him is just as dangerous in Juan Soto. This time, though, when you take a look at the Royals, take a look at their offense here. Their two guys are Bobby Witt Jr. and Salvador Perez. Let me ask you a question. Which one's scarier? Which one are you more worried about? that's the thing, like, with this, is that I love Salvia and I love Bobby Wood. I love both of them. They are some of my favorite players in baseball. But they're not as scary as Judge and Soto. Like, as much as they kind of have that same problem of having a very, very top-heavy at the lineup here and then just kind of mid everywhere else, they do that to a lesser degree. They're, again, kind of like what you said, they're like the Yankees, but more mid. And it kind of sucks in that way because Bobby Witt, like you said, is having a generational year. Like, the fact that he's going to be in Kansas City for, like a decade to come now is... Kansas City should be throwing parades for him and Pat Mahomes at this point. They're being at the same kind of idea. But thank you, Splash. I see that. But but regardless, like at this point, by the way, for those of you not watching the video podcast, Splash was very much giving me the thumbs down on that. But, by the way, go follow us on YouTube as well at LAR Baseball on YouTube. Fun time. Give us a subscribe. But regardless, I want the Royals to do well because I like them as a team. But I agree with you on this one, Splash. You're either not going to make it or be a first wild card exit.
Yeah, I mean, really, my issue is they only check one box. They have great starting pitching. In a 7-game series, most teams would kill to have Seth Lugo, Cole Reagans, Michael Wacha, and Brady Singer going in a 7-game series. But they don't do anything else really that well. That's the issue. And to your point, Lucas Erceg was unhittable when the Royals first got him. But since August 28th, he has a 7.45 ERA. So all good things must come to pass. And like their bullpen, who do they trust? I mean, I guess Erceg is their closer, but I mean, who's his setup man? John Schreiber? I mean, James MacArthur's injured right now, and he wasn't having a good year either. And then that offense, like you guys have been saying, it's literally Bobby Witt Jr., who is a 173 OPS plus, and then their next best hitter is a 120 with Salvador Perez. Everyone else on the active roster, that is, because Vinny Pasquantino is injured, everyone else has an OPS plus at 99 or below. So you look at this team and you wonder how the heck they even got here. I entered last week, still amazed that the Royals have a winning record this year, but it all has started to catch up to them. They're 7-12 in September. I just don't think this team, with their issues outside of the starting rotation, I just can't see this team going much further than making the division series. So that's my big issue with the Royals. If they get matched up, maybe they could beat the Guardians, although the Guardians kind of smacked them around the last series they played against each other. Maybe they could beat the Tigers, but there are so many concerns with the Royals right now. They played way above their heads for most of the year, and now it's all caught up to them. So, like you guys are saying, I don't see this team going very far in the postseason.
Yeah, I feel like with this one, it is just... They may make it at the very end, but they could be, the Cinderella story, but they would really need to heat up in order for that to matter. So next up here, let's go to the Minnesota Twins. Here, Mac, let's start off with you on this one. Why would the Twins win the World Series?
The Twins will not win the World Series, A, because they'd have to face the Yankees, and B, because, I mean, this team is just in a collective dry spell right now. They don't do anything particularly well, unfortunately. The bullpen, I guess, would be their biggest strength because Griffin Jax has been amazing this year. And Yohan Duran, while his numbers have come down to earth this year compared to the last 2 years, he's still good. But, I mean, this pitching staff, Pablo Lopez has been better lately, but he's still not been what he was last year. Who's your game 2 starter? Bailey Ober? I mean, Bailey Ober is fine, but I wouldn't necessarily consider him a number 2 starter in most rotations. And then is your game 3 starter Simeon Woods Richardson, or is it David Festa? Again, those are not guys that would be in most playoff rotations. And then their offense is just, Royce Lewis has been ice cold. Byron Buxton can't stay healthy, unfortunately. The most battle-tested guy they have, I guess, is Carlos Santana, and Santana's fine, but He's not a superstar necessarily, and Max Kepler's hurt. I mean,
he's legendary in the playoffs. I'll give him that.
Oh yeah, for sure. But like if say Buxton stays healthy and Correa stays healthy, then their lineup could give them a chance. But collectively, they've fallen flat. This is a team that we all picked to win the AL Central, and I think has been a disappointment. I know that the Reds fired David Bell last night for their team failing expectations, and honestly, the Twins don't make the playoffs. I would not be surprised if Rocco Baldelli is the next guy to go. I'm not saying Rocco Baldelli is a bad manager, but like I said, this team won the division last year. They were the consensus favorites basically around the league to win the Central again. And right now they're in fourth place. They're on the outside looking in. It seems like they just cannot do anything right now. So the Twins, if they make the playoffs, A, they're not beating the Yankees. But B, I don't think they would beat anybody. So, yeah, the Twins, they have a case to be the most disappointing team in the American League right now.
Mm-hmm. I'll go next then on this one here. And for the Twins, they're not going to win the World Series, kind of along the lines that you were saying here, because the pitching is absolutely mid. Like, here's the problem. I like the names that they're talking about, right? Pablo Lopez, Bailey Ober, Simeon Woods Richardson, Johan Duran. Like, those are guys that are good. I like them. Those are good pitchers. The problem is, you look at how they're doing this year, right? Pablo Lopez has an ERA plus of 101, is directly average here. Bailey Ober, 108, slightly above average. Simeon Woods Richardson, 104, ever so slightly above average. Johan Duran, 109, slightly above average. Griffin Jax has been your best guy from ERA plus side of things at 199, which is good. Cole Sands good, 133 here as well, but they're just so painfully average, and that's okay. You can win with an average starting pitching staff. Does it help your case? No. But the biggest problem with it at that point is that if you're going to have a weaker pitching staff, you need to make up for it with amazing offense, and they don't have that either. You have Carlos Santana, who has been absolutely on a tear. He's very war tested, yes, and I think he's going to do well in the playoffs. He's definitely done well in the playoffs beforehand. But Carlos Correa and Jose Miranda, like, I don't see this team really coming through for the pitching staff here. If you're going to have a weaker pitching staff, your offense needs to overcompensate here in the playoffs. I don't see them being able to do it.
Yeah, I generally feel the same way about the Twins. So the Minnesota Twins will not win the World Series because their stars haven't played like stars. Carlos Correa is the large exception to this. He has a 148 OPS plus. He's hitting 307. Buxton's been pretty good, all things considered, 133 OPS plus. Royce Lewis, like Max said, has been in a tailspin. But I look at Pablo Lopez, a guy who I picked to win the Cy Young Award this season. He has an ERA above 4. You look at Yohan Duran, who Alex and I is like, yeah, he's a top 5 reliever, easy. He has an ERA at 3.8. And I know reliever ERA, but I get it. The stars are not playing like stars. They've gotten some extraneous production, platooning and stuff. You know, Matt Wallner is essentially O'Neal Cruz in terms of hitting the ball hard, but not exactly being like Aaron Judge. But he has a 149 OPS plus. He absolutely mashes against righties. As soon as you bring in a lefty, you are taking Matt Wallner out of the game. You might have Willie Castro, who's a switch hitter. You might have Brooks Lee, who's a switch hitter. Neither of those guys are as good as Matt Wallner against righties. Ryan Jeffers has been fine. Christian Vasquez, bad. Edouard Julien. King Julien, not so much of a king this year, 80 OPS plus. Manny Margot, not exactly great here. Did I say Margot for switch hitter? I meant Willie Castro, but point stands. Trevor Larnach, reasonable hitter against righties. So you are trying to do this like platoon song and dance, and your stars aren't playing like stars, and you're kind of trying to be the 2021 Giants and the 2024 Dodgers, and you end up being the dream team Eagles.
Yeah, I just the Twins. I sort of thought of the 2021 Giants too, but when what the 21 Giants did was they mashed. It did not matter who they put up there. It felt like they were mashing. And I still have no clue how that team won 107 games. There was a method to the madness. This year, there is no method to the madness. The Twins are just overall underperforming.
Yeah. And it's honestly just kind of sad because, like I said, we've seen since the start of this year that the Twins have so much potential, so much star power, and yet just did not come to fruition. Let's move on here to a team that we have not included in our lists, but now are forced to include in this list, and that is the Detroit Tigers. Here, so Splash, I would like to start with you on this one because we've been talking about it a little bit. Why will the Tigers not win the World Series?
So counter, why will they win the World Series? We didn't answer this question 2 weeks ago. Why will they win the World Series? Yeah, tough question there, pal. They will win the World Series. The Tigers will win the World Series because Riley Green is the superior color. And this kind of feeds into why they won't win the World Series. I don't exactly think their run is sustainable. You play a higher caliber opponent in the playoffs. Yes, they did kind of take it to the Orioles, but they had a home run robbery. They had one of the most absurd plays I've seen by a shortstop, the Trey Sweeney, who they got from the Dodgers. Just an absurd play. The runner's second and third, tie game, bottom of the ninth. If the ball drops, the game is over. If you don't have a perfect play, the game is over. He makes the play, crashes into Riley Green. Everyone's okay, believe it or not. And it's, Kerry Carpenter mashes, but he's a platoon guy, frankly. You have guys like Gio Urshela, who's on the Braves now, Mark Canha, who's on the Giants now, Jack Flaherty, who's on the Dodgers now. Those guys would be really helpful for a playoff run. Gio Urshela is mashing. Jack Flaherty is the Dodgers' second best pitcher, depending on what day it is. And Mark Canha is just fine. But I don't see the sustainability here when you're facing the good teams, when you're not facing the White Sox, with all due respect. And listen, they play the Rays and the White Sox to end the season. If they don't go 5-1, that should be considered a disappointment. They should beat Tampa in the series. They should sweep the White Sox. But you're not playing the White Sox in October. You don't have, those games that the entire AL Central, frankly, is going to have an inflated win total this season, besides the Guardians, because for some reason they're aggressively mediocre against Chicago. But Twins demolish the White Sox. Royals demolish the White Sox. Tigers demolish the White Sox. You're not playing the White Sox in October.
Yeah. Well, I think the White Sox also demolished the White Sox. That's the issue.
This is also true. Yeah. I'll go next on this one then too, and I'll kind of follow along your lead a little bit. Why they will win the World Series is because momentum is king. Momentum will take you a lot of places here. Take a look at the Arizona Diamondbacks of last year. So on that same point, though, why they will not win the World Series, along the same coin, momentum can leave. If you lose your momentum, you go back to being what you are, and that is a very aggressively mid team. Like you said here, a lot of the records in the AL Central are inflated because of all these extra games against the White Sox, who legitimately at the time of recording this have already broken the record for most losses in a season, and have a chance to make it 125. They are adding salt into their own wound. But regardless, that becomes the issue here of you're not going to be playing the White Sox, like Splash said here, but you've done well against other teams, but you need to really amp it up. And I'm looking at the team here, and their pitching has been fun. If you would have told me that their pitching staff would have been as good as it was here at the start of the season, I would have laughed at you. But Scuba has been great. Flaherty's been great. Looking at their bullpen as well has been fantastic to see, actually. They have right now a few relievers that are above 100 ERA plus. But the offense is the worry key here, right? Like pitching, I will fully admit that pitching wins championships. You got to have something to back it up, right? The Yankees, even after you have Soto and Judge, you've still got guys like Stanton and Austin Wells. The Royals still have, a few other guys to work with. The Tigers have only 2 hitters right now of their main starting 9, according to Baseball Reference, with an OPS plus of above 100. Matt Vierling is above 100. Kerry Carpenter has been heated up, but I don't know if I can trust it. I really don't think you can trust it in a playoff scenario. This is one, like I see, that's going to happen again, just like you're saying here with the Royals. They may be wild carded done. Like, that may be it here for them. Like, it really comes down to, though, if the momentum stays with them. Like I said at the beginning of that, momentum is king. If you do not have the momentum with the team that you have, you do not win. It's that simple.
So I do want to throw one thing in there. The Tigers do have a World Series winning manager, as much as Alex doesn't want to admit that happened. AJ Hinch. I gave him a vote for manager of the year last year. I thought the Tigers were quite a second half surprise. And if the season had been a little bit longer, like 180 games, perhaps they might have made the playoffs. And this year, major props to AJ Hinch. That's why you go out and you get a World Series winning manager. You get one of the best in the game. And it didn't work for the Cubs. They go get Craig Counsell, and that is not exactly going to plan when the Brewers are even better and the Cubs are not bad, but they have no stars. Not what you expected. They have no stars. The Tigers have a mega star pitcher who might be the best pitcher in baseball in Tarek Skubal. And you have Riley Green, who is a really good baseball player and would be the best player on the Cubs, in my opinion. Sorry, Dansby. Sorry, Cody Bellinger. So having the manager, I don't know if it actually matters, but that can give you some confidence going into a playoff series that AJ Hinch has been there, done that, while Aaron Boone has not won a World Series. Brandon Hyde has not won a World Series. Rocco Baldelli, no World Series. Stephen Vogt, no World Series. Matt Cotaro, no World Series. Joe Espada, no World Series. New Dan Wilson, no World Series. AJ Hinch, he has a ring.
Yeah, so that's part of my reasoning, actually, why I think the Tigers could win the World Series is their manager is certainly battle-tested. He's been to the playoffs plenty, and he has won a World Series. He's won 2 pennants. But why they won't win the World Series? Well, unfortunately, Tarek Skubal cannot pitch every single day. They've been basically using 2 starting pitchers with Skubal and then some combination of either Reese Olson or Casey Mize to start the other game. And, I think they're actually set up great to win a 3-game series. They can definitely win the wild card round, I think. But my God, in a 7-game series, unfortunately, if you're going to win the World Series, you're going to have to win 4 out of 7 multiple times, and they just do not have a roster that can do that. And that's the thing with calling up Jackson Jobe. Jackson Jobe has pitched 9 innings in AAA. And by the way, his walk rate is way too high this year. He's walked 45 batters in 91 innings. That's about 4.5 walks per 9 innings. His strikeouts are great, sure. He's good at preventing runs, but like I said, only 2 appearances in AAA, only 9 innings. He's allowed 6 runs in those innings. That's a move that reeks of desperation, and I don't think he's really ready to pitch in the majors. So while I want him to succeed, I just, I think he's more of a next year guy. And are they going to use him as a starter? Are they going to use him out of the bullpen? What are they going to be doing with him?
Yeah,
I think the Tigers have been a great story this year. I think AJ Hinch definitely deserves strong consideration to be manager of the year. But this is a team that I think next year, if they say go out there and make some splash moves to their lineup is, I think Colt Keith has made a lot of strides this year. I really like Riley Green and Kerry Carpenter. Javi Baez, I don't know what's going on with that dude. I know that he's injured right now, but his numbers, I mean, they hurt to look at. You know, I was a big Javi Baez fan. I really loved watching him in New York for those couple months, but my God, that contract has been a disaster. Maybe you find a way to take that contract off the books and then make some moves for some better hitters. So I think next year, I would not be surprised if the Tigers won the AL Central. This year, it'd be fun to see them in the wild card series. Maybe they win around, but I don't see them getting past the ALDS.
Yeah. And it sucks because it's like they really are kind of the Cinderella story right now. Like, we've had a few teams that have been kind of in that same kind of idea, but I think the Tigers really encapsulate that more than anything else here. Let's move on here to the AL West here, and let's start out with the Houston Astros. Mac, let's start out with you when it comes to Houston. Why won't the Astros win the World Series?
To be honest, this is a hard team to poke holes in, despite how horribly they started. I guess my concern here, the Astros won't win the World Series because what the heck is going on with Justin Verlander? Justin Verlander is like the Grizzly veteran here, battle tested. He's been to the playoffs. He's been to the World Series. He has 2 World Series rings, but he admitted that he probably should not have come back from that neck injury so quickly, and he has a 5.55 ERA this year. And also, he's 41 years old, and maybe he should start considering retiring because he's just no longer Justin Verlander. You know, this is not a guy. I understand going on the IL a couple times, it hurts, but he just has been ineffective when he's been active. Luckily, they got Yusei Kikuchi, who's been very good for the Astros. So that's like my one concern with them. I guess the other thing is that Josh Hader hasn't exactly been Josh Hader this year, but he's still good. The bullpen in general, while they haven't been as good as they were the last 2 years, I think Hader and Abreu and Presley are still a solid trio. I think Taylor Scott, if he's healthy, Taylor Scott has been a big surprise this year. And then their lineup is just really good all around. You know, they're sort of the opposite of the Royals, where almost everyone in their lineup is above average, OPS plus wise at least. I mean, it was mainly Jose Abreu was like the big disappointment in their lineup. And once they cut him, their production increased dramatically. And I mean, shout out to John Singleton, who I didn't even know was still playing baseball before this year, or before last year. I mean, and he's actually above average with a 103 OPS plus. Obviously, you have Kyle Tucker and Yordan Alvarez and Altuve and Yainer Diaz. This is just a really good all-around roster. And, you know, like Splash has been saying, I think the Astros are probably the best team in the American League. Their overall record may not indicate it, but I don't know what can stop them really from going to the World Series again.
Splash, I would like to go to you next because I really want to go last on this one.
Sure. The Houston Astros will not win the World Series because I don't trust the stability of the starting pitching. Yes, Framber Valdez is a wonderful regular season starter. He is a 4.24 ERA in the playoffs. Yes, I know part of that was getting bombed twice by the Atlanta Braves in 2021 and the Twins last year. But he went, listen, wins and losses for pitchers, we can have a debate there. He was 0-3 last year in the playoffs. He allowed 12 earned runs and 4 homers in 12 innings. That is not getting it done. Sorry, that is just simply put not getting it done. He had an ERA of 9. He is a major reason why the Astros did not win the World Series last year at a negative 10.8% championship win probability added. He had a negative 19.2% in the 2021 World Series. Yes, he was great in the He was horrible in the 2021 World Series. He was very good in the 2022 World Series. That's the guy in your rotation that is good now. Sorry, Justin Verlander, and has playoff experience. Hunter Brown, not exactly full of playoff experience. Ronel Blanco, not exactly full of playoff experience. Spencer Arrighetti, not exactly full of playoff experience. Yusei Kikuchi, not exactly full of playoff experience. So you are trying to win the World Series with one real starter. Sorry, Justin Verlander. One real starter who has a spotty playoff resume. A lot of it's like the Max Fried thing that he has the one great start. So you remember the one great start, but he's been annihilated in a lot of other starts. So yeah, you go into a series and on paper it's better than the team you're facing, but these guys haven't done it in the playoffs before. These particular players have not done it in the playoffs before. Like, yes, Ryan Presley is wonderful in the playoffs, and is going to set like a saves record if he pitches enough. Josh Hader, spotty playoff resume. Good job, Trent Grisham. Brian Abreu checks off the boxes for me. But the rotation to me has some stability concerns with, if you have a bad start and you've only made one playoff start in your career or two playoff starts in your career, it could go sideways real fast.
Yeah. And I'm going to kind of echo that sentiment here. I have a fun answer and a real answer. The fun answer is the Astros will not win the World Series because the Mariners are out for revenge after 2022. But the real answer is actually basically the exact same of what Splash said. They're not going to win the World Series because their starting pitching has a lot of questions to it. Verlander, I mean, that's obviously going to be one of the biggest questions. But after Framber, I don't trust really anybody, honestly. Hunter Brown has had his issues. Ronel Blanco has had his issues. Spencer Arrighetti has had his issues here. And I'm not saying that none of them are going to do well. I'm saying that there's a lot of question marks in that starting rotation, and I don't see them being able to make it far if they keep getting lit up in the first few innings here. Because, yes, the bullpen's been fine overall. Like, has it been great? No. But it has not been bad either. So, yes, their offense is really good, but the starting pitching has a lot of questions. Like, Matthew, you said it's hard to poke holes in this one. I was looking at that starting rotation. I'm like, there's Swiss cheese there, my friend. There's a lot. They're right there. They are literally right there. But regardless, no. Anyway, I would like to go first on the last one here. And because I am the resident Mariner fan here, why won't the Mariners win the World Series? Well, the answer to that question is because Edgar Martinez has only been managing for the last month or so. Well, has only been hitting coach for
hitting coach, yeah.
And Dan Wilson has been managing for the last month or so. This team has been on fire. I don't know if you've noticed here, but their offense has taken a dramatic upturn in the last month. Legitimately, had they had this offense for the entire season, we'd be looking at a team that would be nearly 100 wins. Like, I know I say that with a little bit of hyperbole, but with how good the pitching staff has been at their generational level, we made this joke earlier that if they had even a league average offense for the entire season, we'd be looking at an undisputed number one seed. But regardless, that's not the point. If they do make the playoffs here, I still hold the thing, like I said last time, that they will win the World Series with how they do. They just need to make the playoffs. But if they do make it and do not win, it is going to honestly just be because their offense didn't click at the right time here for them. I think that if they make it, they are going to have an excellent shot here because of how their team is built, because they're starting pitching, and how good the bullpen has been doing. The fact that you now have Troy Taylor, who has been absolutely astounding this year. Colin Snyder's really picked things up as well, and Munoz being about as lights out as you can get. Seattle has a shot if they can make it. And that's why they won't, is because we have 6 games left of the season, and 3 of them are against Houston in Houston, and the other 3 are against the A's.
Yeah, my thing with the Mariners is the offense. I don't think they're consistent enough. Even so, they've made great strides ever since Edgar Martinez became the hitting coach, and really has been night and day. But my other issue
become
is
the
that,
manager, but yeah.
Yeah, but the other issue I have is that the bullpen that isn't Andres Munoz, I do have questions about. I mean, You unfortunately cannot use those same 3 guys every single game. And even Munoz has tired out a little bit. His ERA was over 5 in August, and it's over 4 this month. And I mean, he has 7 losses this year. I know that losses for relievers are kind of all right, well, that's tough. I mean, you can't really do much about that. He's been very good in save situations. He's been very good in non-save situations, actually. But I mean, it's just tough for me to trust the rest of the bullpen. I mean, if say like one or two of those guys are down, who are you going to? Trent Thornton, Austin Both? It's a lot of question marks there. So
Yeah.
I think
100%. Yeah.
I think a couple people have pointed out that they may have not done enough to help Munoz out in that bullpen at the trade deadline. And also, I'm looking at Munoz's numbers, and with 2 outs and runners in scoring position, opponents have an OPS over 850 against them. Ugh. So that's definitely a red flag. But yeah, I think 100%. The starting pitching staff is definitely, or the starting rotation is definitely elite and is arguably the best in baseball. But it's getting those final outs. I've said that about my Mets. Like you have to get the final 3, 6, or 9 outs, and I don't necessarily trust everyone in that pen to do that. But I think if they make the playoffs, they could go far purely based on that starting rotation.
Right, Splash. Let me hear your take.
Sure. Unfortunately, you're falling in the Braves bucket. The offensive boost here is not going to be enough. The Mariners will not win the World Series because they're not going to make the playoffs. And unfortunately, they might not even be the 7th seed. So the Cancun series between the Braves and the Mariners might end up being the Braves and the Twins. So I personally think the Braves would sweep that series like they did in Minnesota earlier in the season. I wish it was the Mariners and the Braves. Frankly, I wish both teams just made the playoffs, so we didn't have to watch the mediocrity of the American League Central. And that, to me, is the great crime here. With how bad the Chicago White Sox are, the Tigers' record is inflated. The Twins' record is inflated. The Royals' record is inflated. The Mariners are better than those 3 teams. I would take them to beat all 3 of those teams in a series, just as I would take the Atlanta Braves to beat any of those 3 teams in a series. But when you play a 120-loss team, it's not even the end of the season yet, and they've lost 120 games. But when you play a 120-loss team 13 times, you're going to win most of those games. The Tigers will almost certainly clinch a playoff spot when they beat the Chicago White Sox next weekend. And that is sad for baseball. It's sad that a pitching staff as great as the Mariners, I know they're going to win like 83 games, and I get that that's not a general playoff team, but this year, to me, they were a top 6 team. I don't exactly think Minnesota was a top 6 team. I don't exactly think Detroit was a top 6 team. Kansas City, I think so, but they also got to feast on the White Sox. So if you had a college football playoff scenario, Seattle is in. I don't know who's out. Detroit is probably out. Detroit or Minnesota. Although I guess in this case, both teams would be out. So I think Kansas City would be in. I think Seattle would be in. But unfortunately, playing the White Sox 13 times. Imagine just 10 years ago when we had the full division schedule and we played 19 times a year. The Royals would have like 90 wins, and the Tigers would have 90 wins, and the Twins would have 90 wins, and the White Sox, the Guardians can't beat the White Sox, so they don't count. But how sad is that?
Mm-hmm. It is truly sad. And that's what sucks about all of it. Is that it just, again, a lot of people had the same kind of argument when the Astros were as bad as they are. They had multiple 100-loss seasons. It's not near as bad as what we're seeing right now with the White Sox. Here, you're legitimately right now. You can make a full argument right now that the Mariners will not make the will not make the playoffs because the White Sox are this bad. And I hate that can be said.
Yeah, the Mariners only got to face them 7 times this year, which is
and they won 6 of those. They won 6 of those 7.
You still get 7 cracks at the White Sox, but I mean,
but every 5 or 6 games in the American League gets that. Yeah,
those extra 5 or 6 games against them is a huge difference. And to your point, the Astros topped out at, I believe, 111 losses in 2013.
Mm-hmm.
120 with 6 games to go is,
insane.
It's honestly impressive.
It is,
and not in a good way.
Not a good impressive. 100%. Anyway, with all that being said, let us know what you guys think. Why won't any team in the American League win the World Series? Let us know on Twitter at LAR_baseball. Here, but now it is time for everyone's favorite segment. It is trivia time, and for trivia, I hand the reins off to our one and only Ryan Splash Potts. Take it away.
Hello, friends. Tony Romo, Tom Brady here. That makes no sense from a booth perspective, but I do not care. I will say, Tom Brady. I like it in the booth. I don't know if I'm going to continue to like it, but I kind of liked it in the booth. Also go Ravens. Shohei Ohtani did something that I'm still mad about that he didn't do it at Atlanta because I had a lot of money riding on that, but we're going to move beyond. He's had a 50-50 season. He's way surpassed 50-50, by the way. He's on the Ricky curve. He is on the Ricky Berry curve. He has joined Ronald Acuna. He's joined Ricky Henderson. He's joined Barry Bonds. Congratulations, buddy. He is a correct answer for today's trivia. I want you guys to go back and forth naming players who either hit 50 home runs in a season or stole 50 bases in a season. Shohei Ohtani happened to do both in the same season. He is the example. He is not an answer. If you say Shohei Ohtani, that is strike one. So, Alex, because I've been mean to you before, you go first.
Okay, fine.
That's really, okay.
Because every time we do the guess the number thing, he's like, "Oh, you are committing crimes against me." It's like, no, I'm not. It just happens to be the number. But anyways, Alex, you may go first.
No, I'm not. I'm never mad at you when you do it.
Sure.
All right, I'll go first anyway, and I'm just going to take the easy answer, in my opinion, and that's Ricky Henderson here for stolen bases.
Tricky Ricky. The problem is there's like 100 stolen base guys, so the page has to load for me. To click the answer.
I just want to take the easy one on that one first.
Yeah, that's an absolutely fair point. He did it quite a lot of times, including with several different teams, which is impressive. Yeah. Do you guys know he is the oldest Boston Red Sox to steal a base?
Yeah.
So he did it 13 times. Congratulations. By the way, there are two other players who did both in the same, or not in the same season, but who did both once.
Both.
So joining Shohei Ohtani, that only gets you 1 point. I'm sorry, but I will mark it off for both. So,
gotcha.
Mac, your turn, pal.
I'll be honest. I have no clue who that player is, but
no, there's two other players. Ohtani's the third.
All right. Well, I'm just going to go. I'm going with Brady Anderson. I think
that is one of the answers.
Let's go.
He has had a 50 homer season. He had a 50 stolen base season.
Yeah, that 50 homer season is such an outlier, man. I'm sure he.
Hey, the 50 stolen base season is also an outlier.
True.
Yeah, whatever.
All right, I'll go with a 50-plus homer guy, and that is one Arson Judge of the San Francisco Giants.
Yes, Aaron Judge 3 times. 62. Mac.
Okay, I'll go with Barry Bonds.
Barry Bonds is the other player to have both.
Oh,
thank you for
wow.
Thank you for saying it. I did not want to say Bonds on this.
So Barry, Brady, and Shohei. Yes, 1990. He stole 50 bases. All right, Alex.
Wow.
Going to the 2023 great debate of the best first base. Let's go, Matt Olson.
Matt Olson. He's also heating up now, which is important. Correct. Mac. My bad.
I'll go with Ryan Howard.
Ryan Howard is correct.
58 homers.
2006. Alex.
All right, let's go one Mr. Giancarlo Stanton.
Giancarlo Stanton, 2017. Yes. Mac. To be clear, home runs.
Yeah.
What wasn't stolen bases? Wow.
Yeah. Wait. What?
I don't even know if he has 50 sprints as a.
That's mean, man. That's just mean.
I'll go with a stolen base guy. I'll go with a guy who's done it this year, Ellie De La Cruz.
Ellie De La Cruz is correct. Nice. Alex.
So I'm trying to think if he's actually reached the stolen base, so I'm going to hold on to this name for a little bit later. But I'm going to go and take a name from you, Mac, here, and I'm going to say one Mr. Polar Bear, Pete Alonso.
2019, that's correct.
53,
Mac.
Yeah. Okay, I'll go with Big Mac, Mark McGwire.
Mark McGwire, 4 times in a row. Correct.
Yep.
Alex.
Okay, now it gets a little bit harder of trying to figure out some of the other names that have at least reached the number. I'm going to go with Sammy Sosa.
Sammy Sosa 4 times also in a row. Correct. Mac.
Not going to lie, that was going to be my next pick.
Nice.
So I'll go with another guy from that era who I believe only had 130, even 30-plus homer season, but he hit 57 to 1 year. Luis Gonzalez.
World Series champion. That's correct. Alex.
Jose Canseco.
Jose Canseco is strike.
We sure about that?
No, I'm not. I just honestly, you said McGuire, and I started thinking about the Bash Bros.
That is strike 1. He did not do either. He did have a 40-40 season, but no.
I was going to say, he did
50.
have a 40-40, yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
All right, strike one.
Okay.
Mac.
Now I have to do some digging. Andrew Jones. He 51
Andrew
this
Jones.
season.
He probably should have won MVP that year, but no comment. Alex.
We're going to go with the most consistent hitter of all time here. That's Chris Davis.
Yes.
Yes, Chris Davis with a C is correct. 2013. Mac.
I just want to confirm that Alex meant that Chris Davis.
What Chris Davis do you think I meant here?
Oh, hey, there's a different one.
The other power hitter named Chris Davis who spelled his name differently.
Fine, I would like to go with Chris Davis at Baltimore. The best power hitter that's definitely worth every money he's still being paid.
All right, Mac.
Okay. Where was I? Ken Griffey Jr.
I'm surprised Alex didn't get there first.
I was going to say,
I honestly forgot that he hit.
Far.
Yeah, I thought he was in the 40s.
He had 56 twice. Come on,
I know.
Alex.
I'm being dumb, okay?
That might be worth strike two. Come on, Alex.
Fine. If you want to give me strike two, go for it.
Strike two, Alex.
Cool.
Go ahead.
Sounds good. Joey Bats. Jose Bautista.
Oh, yeah. That's legend.
All right. Also Braves legend. Mac.
Yeah. Prince Fielder.
Prince Fielder. That's correct. 2007. Alex.
Let's go.
Okay, let's go with stolen bases. Billy Hamilton.
Oh, Speed Demon. Yep.
Billy Hamilton. I will point out this is probably not going to matter at all. Stolen bases is since 1920. Actually, home runs is since 1922, but that doesn't matter. Billy Hamilton 4 times in a row. Also, the other Billy Hamilton, I think, qualifies, but he's not on the list because he's before 1920. All right. The Hall of Famer, Billy Hamilton. Mac.
I'll go with the other fielder, Cecil Fielder.
Cecil Fielder, 1990, correct. Alex.
1990, yep.
Very, very good. I honestly, at this point right now, I just want to try and get another stolen base one. I'm pretty sure he has the number there, and that's Ichiro.
Ichiro Suzuki.
Did he steal 50?
Did he steal 50? I think he did.
I think he may have.
He's all the way down at the bottom of the list. That is, he's number 90. Yes, 2001, correct. 56.
Okay. I'll go with the guy who I'm kind of surprised is still on the board, Babe Ruth.
That was not the name I was expecting you to say because I was going to give you a joke name. Alex.
Let's go with Babe Pappy. David Ortiz.
David Ortiz.
Yes,
2006.
he did.
Mac.
Okay, now I guess I have to start thinking of base stealers because I think we're exhausting our power options.
Out of the 32 available options, you have 3, 4, 8, 9, 10, 13 left. So you're 19 to 32 in home runs. Right. I think we've also done that as an individual category before. So
I'm going with Jose Reyes.
Jose Reyes, known good guy. 4 times in a row.
Okay.
Alex.
All right, I said Aaron Judge. How do I not say this dude? Roger Maris.
Roger Maris. Roger Maris Jr.'s dad is correct. Mac.
Yeah, I'll go with the other Yankee that I'm also surprised is still on the board, Mickey Mantle.
That's fair, yeah.
Alex.
Yeah, that was giving my next one here, but now we're going to go to the late, great Willie Mays.
That is correct. 10 years apart. Mac.
Now I'm starting to run short on names.
Yeah, I am too.
I think this guy stole 50. D. Strange Gordon.
D. Strange Gordon 3 times is correct.
That's
also
a
hit
fair.
No. Alex.
Ooh. Okay. This is now where it gets really tricky. There's a name I've been holding on to, but because I don't know if he's actually reached. I feel like he's reached the number, but I don't think he. It's tough. You know what? For the sake of timing, I'm gonna say it here. It's this season. Here, Jose Caballero.
Jose Caballero is not correct. Mac, you win. Can we point out Ronald Acuna Jr. was sitting there? Corbin Carroll, Estuary Ruiz.
Oh yeah, no, 100% he was sitting there, but I didn't want to say.
I thought
Juan Pierre.
Can I tell you a name that I know for a fact is a correct answer? I just didn't want to say his name.
Alex Rodriguez.
Thank you. Exactly. Okay. I just didn't want to say his name.
Yeah, wow.
I'd rather take the loss than say his name.
I'm going to go through rapid fire here. Luis Castillo, the GOAT, Craig Biggio, Kenny Lofton, Shannon Stewart did it once, by the way. Chuck Knobloch did it once, by the way. Deion Primetime Sanders, baby. Barry Larkin in his MVP season. Tim Raines 8 times. Ozzie Smith did it twice. Also,
that's impressive
Lonnie
that
Smith
Luis.
did it 3 times. Tony
That's
Gwynn.
impressive that Luis Castillo did it, considering he's a pitcher.
That's a good point.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
MVP Willie McGee. Ryan Sandberg did it in a season. Steve Sachs,
Ryan
Mookie
Sandberg?
Wilson did it twice. Ron
I knew-
LaFleur, great name. Cesar Cedeno, great name. Don Baylor, known DH, did it.
Not
Lou Brock
Don
did it.
Baylor still 50 in a season?
Yes. Lou Brock
What?
did it 12 times. Joe Morgan did it 5 times in a row. Luis Aparicio, Snuffy Sternweiss, the only guy to do it in the 40s. Sorry.
What the heck?
That is incorrect. He did do it in 1944, though. And then the home runs that you guys missed: Albert Bell, George Foster, Jimmy Fox, Hank Greenberg, Ralph Kiner, Johnny Mize, A-Rod, Jim Thome, Greg Vaughn, Hack Wilson. Good job.
I need to let you
Mac.
guys know I cheated on this game. I have my Ricky Henderson card right here. So my printed 168.
I wonder if Ricky Henderson stole 50 bases in a season.
Yeah, 299. Yeah, my
Don
Russ card, so it doesn't actually have the team name on it.
Oh man. All right, Mac. Good job, pal. Alex, hosting duty is back to you, pal.
All right, sounds good. Thank you so much for trivia. That was a good
so
time here. But it is now time for the moment to ourselves. We like to end every podcast this way to take a moment to talk about whatever's on our mind. It does not have to be baseball related, but it absolutely can be. Gentlemen, who would like to go first on today's edition? I'll go first then, if no one else will. So, can someone count me down, please?
Yeah, I got you. Your time starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
So I'm going to do something a little bit different with my time. I'm going to teach you guys something here. So especially something for the YouTube. Here, make sure, again, go subscribe to us on YouTube. I'm going to show you how I throw a few different pitches. I've actually pitched 9 innings this last weekend and had a really good time doing it here. But I want to show you the grips I use for some of these pitches. My signature pitch is a 2-seam fastball. I grip it like this along the seams. Here, thumb down at the bottom seam. And my main thought process with it is that as I'm throwing, I need to make sure that it rolls really off the fingers. It does take off a bit of velocity, but it does get that inside movement here towards these right-handed hitters. It's my favorite pitch to throw with a little bit of velo, but I'm not a velo guy. I'm a breaking ball guy. Speaking of breaking balls, let's go to the curveball. I've been recently trying to relearn how to throw a curveball, and so my grip for it looks like this, where I have my 2 fingers on the lace, thumb on the lace, but I have a little bit of a gap, if you notice, in between the ball and the finger there. So that when I throw it here, it's more of a pinch than anything. Because if I go fully in on that, then I can't get that turn on it. But if I pinch, I can really get the snap turn on it. And then as I throw, I snap like I'm snapping my wrist here to then let it do, and then it'll break that slow curve out away from a right-handed hitter. And then the last pitch I'm going to show you, my favorite pitch, honestly, to throw just because it's fun, I throw a knuckler. So how I hold it, everyone has their own different way of doing it. Here, I've kind of adapted mine from especially R.A. Dickey, and that was by taking the inner part. I don't hold it on like the tips of the fingers I used to. I now hold it on the inner part of my knuckle along the rounded part of the lace, turn it slightly, and then let the joint of my thumb get the lace, and then of my ring finger, the top of it, get a lace. So I have just enough grip on it, so then when I throw it, I push it forward. Here, so I'm going a full release like a fastball. I'm doing a push forward so it comes out with very little spin and will dance away. That's how I throw my pitches.
Honestly, I've been wondering my entire life how to throw a knuckleball, and I still have, I cannot throw a knuckleball.
When we have LAR HQ, I will personally teach you.
We can do the We Got Ice shtick.
100%, yeah.
100%.
Also, shout out to Rob Friedman, the GOAT pitching ninja.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful content.
Big pitching.
Amazing content. The fact that he had his thing with Brian Wu was amazing.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. Anyway.
All
right, who would like to go next?
Sure.
Splash.
All right, Splash. I'll count you down in 3, 2, 1, begin.
I'm going to be honest. Sometimes I miss being like a fan of the sport as opposed to a particular team in the sport, because when your team is mid or you don't enjoy watching them, like the Braves this season, or frankly the Ravens sometimes, it makes you question why you watch an individual team more than I've probably. I don't know. I do watch a lot of baseball, but sometimes it feels like the only game I'm watching is the Braves game, or the only game I care about is the Braves game. And there's, 2,000 other baseball games on, or it's like, the only game I'm going to watch, the only game I watched in the 4:00 window yesterday was the Ravens game. And there were not only other games on, there were other fun games on. The Rams came back and beat the 49ers. The Cardinals and Lions had the sloggiest 20-13 game of all time. The Panthers, Andy Dalton was dropping dimes. So I don't know. I love being a fan of the Ravens and I love being a fan of the Braves, and that I take pride in that. But also, they're a part of my life. I was not a diehard Braves fan. I just lived in Atlanta, so I just watched baseball. I just followed baseball. I played MLB Power Pros. I didn't always use the Braves. Sometimes I used the Mets. Sometimes I used the Phillies. Right? I famously own a Steven Strasburg jersey. I infamously, I guess now, have a Chase Utley jersey in my closet back home that my mom said she was going to put into a quilt. When my dad's listening to this, he's going to get a nice chuckle in the car. So, sometimes I miss the days. Sometimes I don't miss the days. It's nice to follow one team, and it's nice to have those guys be extended family, right? It's nice to Brandon Gaudin is in my living room 6 times a week. I like that, right? Or I like seeing Ronald Acuna smile on a baseball field, or Lamar Jackson and his little idiosyncrasies. But sometimes I do miss, the top-down approach of how are the Diamondbacks doing this week? Okay, how are the Carolina Panthers doing this week? Okay, how are the Tigers doing this week? Okay, great. How are the Lions doing this week? Sometimes I miss that. I miss seeing the larger trends. Passing is down this week. Why is passing down? Well, I'm just watching Lamar. I know why Lamar's passing is down, because they were up 22 halfway through the third quarter, so you're not going to throw the ball. So I will say I do miss part of that. And finding a team, kind of your team for the season in a lot of ways, which is very weird and is very bandwagony when I put it like that. But it's sort of, if you think about it in a March Madness realm, you're not a St. Peter's fan when they start, but when they're going into the Elite Eight, you are heavy rooting for the St. Peter Peacocks. Obviously, that's a little bit different from professional sports, but I think a lot of the same things apply. That, sometimes you have a particular player you like, you have a particular coach maybe you like, a particular way you play. I know people like how the Guardians play or the Diamondbacks play. Look, the Diamondbacks last year, perfect example. If your team didn't make the playoffs or they crashed out early, hey, you could just root for the Diamondbacks en route to losing the World Series. So that's my inner struggle sometimes.
I completely understand that.
Yeah, I feel that.
All right,
and
Matt,
I definitely relate to that March Madness thing. And by the way, I didn't have a college sports team for a while, and then I got into Syracuse for grad school, and then
fair.
I was like, all right, well, that's my team now.
I'm not even I don't even like Arizona basketball. I went to the school. I don't like Arizona basketball.
Yeah, I mean, one of my good friends from grad school is, he went to Syracuse, but his whole family's diehard UNC fans. So
that'll do it.
They don't really care about Syracuse basketball, but they love the Tar Heels. So it's yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, Mac, you ready?
Yeah, for sure.
Here we go. Your time begins in 3, 2, 1, go.
So I just want to acknowledge before this week begins the craziness that this Mets season has been. Let's just go back to the beginning of the year. They started 0-5. They were 3 outs away from being 0-6. Then they went on a hot streak. Then they hit rock bottom in May, and I posted a voice tweet after Jorge Lopez threw his glove into the stands, basically saying that this team was going to be very different by the trade deadline, and they weren't going to compete this year, and they have completely flipped the script. So I just want to say it's been insane watching this team this year. From all the highs and lows, I mean, heck, late August, it looked like their season was basically over. They fell 4 games back. They're in a playoff spot right now, and the fact that they're even here is wild. A lot of people were questioning what David Stearns was doing. Like I've said earlier, there's a method to the madness with him. And he didn't mortgage the future, but he didn't need to. He played it conservatively, and it's paid off. And heck, Luis Angel Acuna is in the majors right now, and he's filled in admirably for Francisco Lindor, which, by the way, I hope Lindor's back soon. Back injuries suck, so I hope he's back. But really, I went to the one game they lost this week, but still, they had their highest ever attendance for a 4-game series at Citi Field, over 41,000 fans on average, 2 sellouts, the largest 2-game attendance in a non-Subway series. It's just crazy how the fans have showed out and the fans have bought into this team. So while going into this week, unlike 2022, I think while it'd be heartbreaking to lose the series and miss the playoffs, it's hard to not be proud of this team. And there's a difference between 2022 and 2024. In 2022, there were expectations. The team lagged in September. This year, there weren't expectations. This team has turned up when they needed to. So I'm really excited and kind of nervous to see what happens this week. But I hope that I do get to attend a playoff game this year because Citi Field was absolutely electric this week.
I still have not gotten to attend a playoff game, even though the Mariners made it in 2022. I tried to, but the ticket stubs I got were not for the right game. So that's yeah. So I'm hoping that this.
I've been to two, and one was great and one was terrible. So
fair enough. All right. Anyway, with that being said, that is our show for today. Thank you so much for everyone for tuning in today. Make sure that if you're listening on Spotify, give us a good review. Apple Podcasts, give us a good review. On YouTube, give us a subscribe here. Leave some comments. Let us know what you liked, what you didn't like here. You can go follow us on Twitter at LAR_baseball. Go follow me on Twitter at the Sports Guy 242. Go follow Mac at the Sports Guy. Wow, I am doing horrible this outro. We had the joke that splashes last week was horrid, but
I didn't screw up. I just didn't do an outro.
Yeah, I only
screwed up the outro. You're doing my bit. This is my shtick, buddy. I'm the one that screws up the outro.
Fair enough. All right, you can go follow. You can go follow Matt at Mathias_A_K, and you can go follow Splash at Mrs. Splashman19. But from all of us here at Losses Above Play, so thank you all for listening, watching, whatever you are doing for today. Have a great rest of your day. Stay safe, and I hope to see you all real soon. Thank you.